First of all, thanks a lot for this opportunity, and I think I congratulate everyone here, all the esteemed delegates and the panelists as well, for the exceptional work we've been doing as a country for achieving or reducing carbon emissions on the whole. And India is progressing at a very fast rate, and I think we have a lot of scope to achieve. So I'm Chandana from WRI India, and we are a research organization and a think tank who work towards various aspects of climate change, mobility, water, sanitation, and energy. And today I'll be covering the smart electric mobility and covering few topics wherein I think Mr. Asim has really covered the whole EV landscape in a very comprehensive manner, and I think a lot of points have been already covered over here. But going to, just a second. Yeah. So after the national EV policy was introduced, it took 29 months for the first EV policy to be introduced, which was by Karnataka. And in the next 29 months, 9 different states have come up with their own EV policies, which have led to exceptional increase in the uptake of electric vehicles throughout. Until now, there is a 157% increase in the year-on-year electric vehicle sales by 2022. And the EV industry is expected to become $47 billion industry by 2026. The introduction of various demand-led policies and incentives, which were covered under FAME 1 and FAME 2, have spurred the introduction of two-wheeler and three-wheeler, especially segments, with almost 1.9 million EVs being introduced into the market by 2022. And this also fostered the startup ecosystem and innovations in the automobile manufacturing. And India is supposed to be known as one of the most advanced countries in export of auto industry, and I think we have a great potential in the electric vehicle segment as well. The main important point that we all need to wonder and think about is identification of certain levers, and this is not in generic for all electric vehicles, but this needs to be a segment-wise strategy for adoption and acceleration of adoption in the whole industry, wherein everyone, all the stakeholders, including the OEMs and the manufacturers and everyone else, is equally benefited and equally is able to understand and find a business case and a viable financial model. So we see that currently the Indian policy landscape is mainly looking at EV adoption through demand-led incentives, supply-side incentives, PLI schemes wherein the localization of manufacturing is being promoted, along with investments in R&D, investments in manufacturing, introduction of public transport, and introduction of e-buses, the grand challenge which was successful, the largest tender that India or the world has seen of 5,450 trucks last year, wherein this has led to a good cost parity in the electric buses segment as well. Along with it, various incentives and tax exemptions have also been taken care of, which are I think the selling points of how Indian EV landscape is going and forwarding actually. So if we talk about what are the ingredients required, this is a new technology and everyone is trying to embrace it, everyone is trying to get into the market. So what we think about is it as two major levers. The first is the business aspects, which include the charging infrastructure, manufacturing, the battery ecosystem, and the EV financing, and the human aspects which are associated with it, which will include the capacity building and entrepreneurship, innovation, public awareness, mitigating all the inhibitions that are there in the ecosystem and the stakeholders who are the end users who are going to use the products, and collaboration, which is the most fundamental and the foundational part of the whole journey. And this, when supported by crucial policy levers and regulations will actually help in spurring the uptake, what we've seen in India and in global case scenarios as well. I will go part by part. I think most of the areas have already been covered by other panelists. But I think currently China is monopolistic in the battery manufacturing and the battery manufacturing ecosystem. And with almost 80% of the global lithium-ion capacity lying with China and 60% of global mining and processing capacity as well. India currently imports 70% of the lithium-ion cell requirements from China. This could pose certain geopolitical issues and security challenges as well, and it is important for India to localize these as well. So when we talk about the battery manufacturing, there are three major phases. The first is the upstream, wherein the materials are extracted, the midstream, where the cell is manufactured, and the downstream, where the cell is basically all the cells are assembled and the battery manufacturing is done. Currently, India has good capacity of battery manufacturing, but what we need to focus on is active material and the manufacturing of cell, and this is mainly supported by the various initiatives India is taking through partnerships with Australia and Bolivia, wherein raw materials like lithium ion and other cathode and anode materials are being imported from other countries so that we're able to develop a robust upstream and midstream infrastructure as well, so that we're localizing and our foreign dependence for such materials is reducing. The way forward for battery manufacturing especially will focus on localizing battery components manufacturing, wherein we need to take care and foolproof the end-to-end manufacturing of battery. The second is enabling life cycle management services, wherein we are able to envision what is the economic and environmental sustainability and how viable is the use case for a certain segment or a certain battery type. Moving on, the reduction of dependence on current lithium-ion battery chemistry and moving on to different battery mechanisms wherein we're able to integrate R&D investment and collaborate with academia, wherein the most potential lies, and we're able to invest in the ideas that have been promoted by the academia for getting a good, viable use case. And the advancing of alternate battery chemistries and having a long-term strategy to involve, identify, and innovate for viable battery technologies. Regarding EV infrastructure, I think I'll simplify this to the major extent, wherein we identify EV charging infrastructure to be in three major use cases. The first is home, the second is home, which is a mainly passenger-oriented sort of EV charging, wherein the annual average vehicle kilometers traveled per day is approximately 40 kilometers, wherein we're able to depend on domestic sockets, which is 15 ampere, and then there is workspace, wherein if there is a fixed route, we're able to identify certain points wherein slow plug-in chargers can be included, and the average vehicle kilometers traveled would be somewhere around 70 kilometers per day. On the other hand, the inclusion of fast plug-in chargers and battery swapping potential is mainly there in the public charging services, wherein the commercial use cases would be really viable. And these would be the average vehicle kilometers traveled per day will be somewhere around 100 kilometers per day. Currently, until 2022, there were 900 chargers that were introduced. There were 900 chargers that has been introduced in India, which has seen a 10 times increase in the charging infrastructure, which is 11,000 by 2023. But it is projected, according to a CII report, that the need for 1.32 million chargers is required by 2030. And this means that we need 40,000 chargers annually, addition of 40,000 chargers annually, wherein we're taking a case where one charger is supporting 40 electric vehicles. currently the Netherlands is doing really well in this case, wherein they've infra-saturated the place and they're having one charger for 5 vehicles. So here, the approach towards charging infrastructure will be mainly 3-bucketed. Understanding of what kind of regulatory frameworks are required, which could be streamlining charging infrastructure approval, special purpose vehicles for deployment of charging infrastructure in tier 1, 2, 3, and 3 cities, incentivizing domestic manufacturing of EV charging components. Strategies could be mainly talking about interoperability of charging infrastructure. Recently, Bharat Charge Alliance and Chademo Charging Association have had an understanding, and they're going to develop chargers which are IS Indian standard rated. So these could be good ways to go about understanding how the charging standardization can take place and interoperability can work. Battery as a service can be a good option, wherein we've seen it to be successful in the 2-wheeler and the 3-wheeler segment mainly. But talking about freight and truck segment will also be really essential and crucial, so that we're able to identify which is because this will require robotic arms, this will require larger manufacturing of or establishment of infrastructure, and this will require some kind of levers to be really pulled that could be financial and business both in nature. And especially research and development to be done for fast charging connectors and EV charging stations. Talking about a global EV transition, we see that every country has taken their own approach towards addressing the EV charging or EV adoption of EV vehicles. So starting with the US, we see that USA has mainly gone through incentivization, localization of EV policies through state and investment in R&D and ZEV mandates as well. On the other hand, EU has mainly looked at emission norms, strict emission norms, which are mainly looking at incentivizing people as well on reduction of carbon emissions. Also, infrastructure saturation. China, on the other hand, has a monopolistic battery and manufacturing segment, including infrastructure and exploration of battery as a service as well. India, as of now, has been doing well in incentivization, as we've seen in FAME 1, FAME 2, also localization of manufacturing from the PLI scheme. So these, I think I'll just quickly wrap through. It is essential for us to have a robust capacity building and skill development, which will require intervention at central, state, and various ULB levels, wherein all tiers of this particular large ecosystem that we're talking about is going to be addressed, which will also lead to job opportunities and creation of robust export options as well in future. Can you move on to the last slide? Last slide. Yeah. So to conclude, I would say that there are 5 major levers that we need to look at, starting with collaborations, which will include business and financial models to increase viability, government, academia, and industry collaborations. Exceptional platform like Manthan is also doing it, wherein we're able to identify what are the various collaborations that can be done between government, academia, and industry to identify which is the right price parity and right point where an idea can be turned into an action. Infra-saturation is required, both in terms of technological intervention, which is integration of seamless technology and telematic system into the vehicles, as and charging infrastructure and battery manufacturing, wherein prioritized corridors are identified, deployment of EV charging solutions are done, incentivization schemes needs to be done in terms, now I think it's high time that we also start identifying performance-based incentives for making products more reliable and making products which are international standards so that it opens up scope for export purposes as well. Long-term clarity is very essential for us to move forward, wherein clear supply or demand mandates can help us, along with certain incentivization, can help us move forward, along with certain withdrawal strategy and alternative fuel clarity as well. Ultimately, it is important that we all move towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, wherein we're localizing all the skills, we're developing them, and we're building robust capacity, wherein India is able to move towards a good EV transition. Thanks a lot.